the seaside town of Southport, England. Spring of 1999 painted the town with vibrant hues. Life was simple, predictable and safe. Little did they know change was coming. The tranquility of Southport was deceptive. Rumours of a disappearance spread. Mrs. Quay's disappearance became the talk of the town. Speculation ran rampant. The once peaceful town held its breath, bracing for the storm. Mitchell Quaye, an unremarkable name in Southport. He worked at the local library, a quiet presence. Life for Mitchell was a predictable rhythm of routine. Mitchell Quay's anonymity was shattered. The media descended upon Southport hungry for a story. Journalists camped outside his home. Mitchell was now the centre of attention, a reluctant protagonist. As the investigation deepened, public perception shifted. Sympathy waned, replaced by suspicion. Mitchell's every word was scrutinised. The pressure mounted on Mitchell Quaye. He became a recluse, afraid to venture out. His life was now chaos, adrift in a sea of doubt. The last sighting of Mrs. Quaye was unremarkable. She left the grocery store with everyday essentials. She vanished into the fabric of an ordinary Wednesday. Back at the Quaye residence, the day unfolded predictably. Mitchell left early for the library. Evening descended, casting long shadows. Mitchell arrived home to an empty house. Hours stretched into silence. No call, no message. Her absence grew wider. The silence became an oppressive weight, suffocating hope. Driven by panic, Mitchell reported his wife missing. The news spread like wildfire through Southport. The search for Mrs. Quaye had begun. Southport found itself in the national spotlight. News vans and reporters descended upon the town. The disappearance of Mrs. Quaye changed everything. Mitchell Quaye was thrust into the media circus. Despite relentless questioning, Mitchell remained an enigma. The media narrative around Mitchell Quaye evolved. Sympathy turned into ambiguity. Theories flourished, fueled by public speculation. The media attention divided Southport. Some believed in Mitchell's innocence, others viewed him with suspicion. The town faced an unsolved mystery. Section 1. The investigation begins. The quaint seaside town of Southport, unaccustomed to national scrutiny, became a hive of activity as the investigation into Mrs. Quay's disappearance began. The peaceful streets now reverberated with urgency as law enforcement descended upon the town. Detective Inspector Davies, known for his sharp intellect, was assigned to the case. His presence brought hope to a community desperate for answers. The initial focus centered around the Quaye residence. Every surface was dusted for fingerprints, every floorboard scrutinized. The garden, once Mrs. Quay's pride, was searched for any trace of the missing woman. Despite the initial flurry of activity, the investigation soon encountered a series of frustrating dead ends. Leads that initially seemed promising quickly evaporated upon closer inspection, leaving the investigators grappling with more questions than answers. Interviews with friends, neighbours and acquaintances of Mrs. Quaye painted a picture of a woman deeply embedded in the fabric of her community, well-liked and respected. No one could recall any conflicts, any signs of trouble, any reason why she would simply vanish without a trace. As weeks turned into months, the initial optimism surrounding the investigation began to wane. Despite the lack of a breakthrough, the investigation into Mrs. Quay's disappearance continued at a slower, more methodical pace. The weight of circumstantial evidence, while not conclusive, began to cast a long shadow over Mitchell Quaye. Forensic analysis of the Quaye residence revealed no signs of forced entry. No evidence of a struggle, and no traces of Mrs. Quay's DNA beyond what would be expected in their shared home. Financial records revealed that Mrs. Quaye had not accessed her bank accounts or used her credit card since the day of her disappearance. Her passport, driver's license, and other personal belongings remained untouched in the house, further suggesting that she had not planned to leave. The lack of any apparent reason for her disappearance led the investigators to a chilling conclusion. Mrs. Quaye had not left voluntarily. Just when the investigation seemed to have hit an impasse, a glimmer of hope emerged from an unexpected source. A witness, who had been on holiday in Southport at the time of Mrs. Quay's disappearance, contacted the police with a potentially significant piece of information. The witness, a retired schoolteacher, recalled seeing a woman matching Mrs. Quay's description on the day she vanished. The woman had been walking with a man whom the witness described as tall and imposing near the harbour area of Southport. The description of the man, while vague, sparked a flurry of activity within the investigation team. Could this be the breakthrough they had been waiting for? The disappearance of Mrs. Quaye left an indelible mark on Southport, a scar etched on the hearts of its residents, dissipating like the morning mist, replaced by a pervasive unease, a long shadow cast over the town. For Mitchell Quaye, the disappearance of his wife shattered his existence. The quiet life he knew was gone, replaced by suspicion and grief. His daily routine, the solace of work, evaporated, leaving him adrift in uncertainty. He walked through the aisles, each title a cruel reminder. Suspicions of his involvement, fueled by media speculation, clung to him like a shroud, suffocating his grief, every tear scrutinized, every sorrow analyzed. He became a recluse, his home a reminder of his loss, every object whispering her name. The silence now echoed with her absence, a deafening reminder of his torn-apart life. The cloud of suspicion that hung over Mitchell Quaye cast a long shadow, affecting every aspect of his life. The once invisible librarian, who had blended seamlessly into the fabric of Southport, now found himself under constant scrutiny. He encountered a mixture of reactions from the townspeople he had known for years. Some viewed him with open suspicion, their greetings curt, their conversations strained. Others offered tentative smiles and words of encouragement, a source of solace in a world determined to condemn him. Yet even their kindness carried a weight, a reminder of the invisible barrier that suspicion had erected. The burden of suspicion became an unwelcome companion, a constant presence that followed him like a shadow. As the years passed, the mystery of Mrs. Quay's disappearance remained unsolved, casting a long shadow over Southport. She had become a ghost story, a reminder of life's fragility and enduring mystery. The mysterious disappearance of Mrs. Quaye remains an open wound on the soul of Southport, a puzzle with missing pieces. Did she leave voluntarily, choosing to erase her old life and start anew? Or was she the victim of foul play, her fate a tragic testament to the darkness beneath the surface? The investigation, though officially cold, continues to haunt Detective Inspector Davies. Each document, each photograph, a piece of a puzzle he is still determined to solve. The passage of time may have dimmed the memories, but it has not extinguished the hope that one day justice will be served. Speculation about Mrs. Quay's fate swirls through Southport, carried on the wind like seeds scattered by an unseen hand. Theories abound, each one a testament to the human need to find explanations. Some whisper of a clandestine affair, others of a stranger passing through town. Over drinks, the case is dissected, analysed and reimagined, blurring the lines between fact and fiction. Mrs. Quaye remains a tangible presence in Southport, her story woven into the town's identity. The case of Mrs. Quay's disappearance stands as a stark reminder that some mysteries defy explanation, their enigma deepening with the passage of time. Despite the tireless efforts of law enforcement, the relentless scrutiny of the media, and the countless hours pored over evidence, the truth remains elusive, a whisper lost in the wind. It is a case that continues to capture the imagination, its tendrils reaching out from the annals of unsolved mysteries to touch the lives of those who have become forever entangled in its web. Mitchell Quaye, forever carrying the weight of suspicion and loss, and Detective Inspector Davies, forever driven to seek justice for Mrs. Quaye and her family, both bound together by a tragedy that has shaped their lives in profound and irrevocable ways. The lack of closure, the absence of a definitive answer, has transformed the case into a modern-day parable, a cautionary tale whispered among the residents of Southport and beyond. It serves as a chilling reminder that even in an age of advanced technology and forensic science, some mysteries remain impervious to our attempts at understanding, their secrets locked away perhaps forever in the vault of the unknown. The enduring mystery of Mrs. Quay's disappearance stands as a testament to the limits of human knowledge, a humbling reminder that some stories do not have neat endings, and some questions may never find their answers. The disappearance of Mrs. Quaye has left an indelible mark on Southport, a legacy of loss transcending time and fading memories. It is a loss felt by her family, friends, and the community, altering the town's character and rhythms. The tragedy casts a long shadow, reminding us of life's fragility and ephemeral happiness. Southport's carefree spirit is now tempered by awareness of lurking darkness. Yet there is resilience, honouring Mrs. Quay's memory through kindness and support. Acts of kindness and reflection weave into daily life, showing the power of community and empathy in adversity.